thank you to our panelists, and appreciate your opening comments. I'm going to ask a few questions, and then we'll open up to our class here to ask some more questions. So this one can go to everybody. We'll start down here with David. Why in the world would you want to attack these difficult problems? As you describe, your industry's got all kinds of challenges. What is it that gets you excited about it?
That is a really good question. And existentially, I've struggled with it a lot, especially when you don't have any money and you're funding it, the business out of your own pocket, right? I don't know. I mean, I've always kind of fashioned myself as a builder, right? I like thinking about problems. I like and get a pretty robust high from giving solutions to users and having them use something I built and then have them tell me, hey, I think this solves this problem, but if it could do this, then gosh, that would really solve this batch of problems for me. So that kind of guides me day to day. I mean, I don't have some grand vision of what I want to accomplish for humanity or something. I mean, I like that what we do isn't another way to send inappropriate pictures or messages. Or, I struggle existentially with that because my sister's in college right now and it just scares me to death what that means. No, again, I think there's a piece of it that this is a problem that the problem that we attack is a problem that we've inherited and has some fundamental challenges for us as an economy and as an ecosystem and going forward. I mean, we waste something like $750 billion of our healthcare spending. Literally waste it. It is completely pointless. And our parents are this glut of a demographic that we just can't support economically with the kind of healthcare system we have in place today. So something has to change. Either we have to be better with preventative care, figure out how to waste less, and it's probably a combination of both. So those things get me excited. But I very much am a product person, so I'm more like the ground weeds level, just building something that I know somebody uses in it now. It went from one person to 1,000, now it's going to more. And so to me, that's what's exciting. I don't know. Do you guys have similar thoughts?
I think my background is that I was sort of a builder as well. I think, so full disclosure, I had no idea I was selling to real estate people when I started the company. So I had to learn that really the hard way, and I also had to understand what real estate people look like and feel like and talk like and stuff. So, which is very different, mind you, can be very different at least. So no offense to anybody who does real estate in the room. So I love you guys all, and you guys should use my product. So, so I think, naiveness is my first answer, right? I was naive, not really understanding who my customer is, and something I always recommend is pause for a second on the product building attitude and just ask yourself who is your customer a little bit more clearly than just sort of the pitch deck for an investor. Actually talk to them and physically sit down and talk with them is important, and more than just sort of the third-party internet research that kind of drove me in the beginning. I think what drives me now is obviously it's an exciting problem to solve, and I genuinely wanted to try and solve a really hard problem. I think I'll turn to the type of people that come to Washington D.C. right? Usually you came to Washington D.C. because you had a passion for something, you wanted to make a big impact, right? That's why a lot of us came into the city. And then maybe we woke up because we realized our original path didn't quite, do it for us in one way or another. And so I think that's one of the things that I'm most excited about when I talk with other team members, is about how sort of genuine people, everybody in my team does really want to solve this problem, and they're not going to just sort of be an engineer that'll jump to the next cool startup because the salary's higher, right? They really do care. And so I think the second thing that I'll mention that keeps me going is sort of the team because of that, right? I love my team, and I think we're practically a family in more ways than we probably should be, and it's just so much fun to see them grow, to see the company grow, and to see me personally grow, right? Because I mentioned earlier that 7-month persistent sort of block before you kind of wake up one morning and you realize you're solving harder problems than you were solving before, right? What that means is that you just leveled up. and then the company leveled up, and that like all of your team members just leveled up, right? And it's super exciting to see that, and that's kind of what drives me on a day-to-day basis now.
Gamer. The video game reference was strong.
You got it.
Give you a badge for that.
Sweet. Can you play the little song too?
Yeah.
I don't think I got that.
What was the question? The question was, why do we do this?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess I'm also a builder, but I'm not really a builder of products. I'm a builder of organizations. So I like the part where you worry about the people and the capabilities and the capacity and the happiness and the role design and the performance management and the professional development. Because I think we spend so much of our time at work in our lives that it should be a good place to be and a place where we're learning and growing. And you keep hearing me say learning and growing, so that goes to why learning is interesting to me. At McKinsey, I did a lot of work in adult learning and professional development, leadership development, succession planning, those kinds of things, and I find that really interesting and challenging and worth it. I mean, I guess we could move to San Francisco and make a lot more money, but then also you spend a lot more money on your house, so it's a wash.
That's great. Well, so I'm going to drill down a little bit more. You mentioned your earlier time at McKinsey. How did a lot of our students here think they want to go into consulting and that sort of thing. So how did your work as a consultant translate into what you do now?
Right. So I never even thought about entrepreneurship. I thought the entrepreneurship people were like this interesting, strange, extra confident looking breed of superhumans that I wanted to party with but couldn't possibly keep up with professionally.
Thank you.
Just like these guys. And at McKinsey and consulting, what they teach you are exactly the sort of things you need to know to do a startup or to build a company. You need to know how to structure an ambiguous problem, how to walk into kind of any problem, whether you know anything about it or not, and figure out a way to figure it out. Break it down into smaller pieces, attack them a little bit at a time. It teaches you people leadership, communication, getting people to do stuff that you don't have control of them, as you pointed out, influencing people to take actions that will improve their businesses when you actually have no control over them at all. And it also teaches you a lot, at least at McKinsey, we spend a lot of time on self-leadership, a lot of mirrors held up to your face. Let's learn how you come off to other people. Let's improve how you lead and how you speak and how you communicate and how you inspire, which is also extremely necessary when you are trying to build a company. So it gave me courage to try.
All right. Great. And let me ask all of you guys a question here. So at Georgetown, one of the things we like to do is think about kind of the entire person, not just career, and also just kind of over the longer term of your life. So you're each in the middle of kind of a intense period of company formation, growing your company. How does this fit into what you see yourself doing over the long run? How much of your entrepreneurial experience is something that you think you might do for the rest of your life, or have you thought about what you want to be doing 10 or 20 years from now? And how does this kind of entrepreneurial experience inform that? David, I'll start with you since you look really scared of the question.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of time to stop and think about that, to be honest with you. And all jokes aside, you take 2 months ago, took most of the company, myself included, off payroll because we needed to, basically extend our runway. I'm funding most everything on my American Express. Funneling money to my guys off of my American Express over PayPal, right? I'm paying my rent on my American Express. So it doesn't really afford you the luxury of thinking about, gosh, am I going to use this skill 20 years from now? Well, I hope not. I really hope that this thing I'm generating right now is not something I can use 20 years from now. But you don't do that unless you really believe in what you're doing and you have the staying power to continue to fight. You have the discipline to make prudent decisions in that regard. Like we could have shut it down, 4 months ago and 5 months ago at least. But now, we closed the round last week, and my lead investor is going to be here in a week, I guess. But that's only so much because now it's just my job for 18 months not to get fired. To answer your question, I really have thought about it, right? I mean, my personal life is completely on hold for this. Like, this is all I do. It is every minute of the day. I'm in bed at night, with my phone. My girlfriend hates my guts. Like, this is the life I live, right? And, you trade it, right? It's a trade, but those
Making
highs.
it sound so great.
No, I mean, it is. No, but the reality is the highs are high,
You
right?
can
Like,
turn
I'm
it.
an addict. Like, I am literally an addict for the highs.
Yeah.
And so, you just have to get used to that roller coaster and hope you can bring the floor up so that the mean continues to go higher. But, so, Dan, I'm sorry I couldn't answer your question, but I have no clue.
That was a great answer.
No, well, this is really interesting because I think, like, if you were to ask me that question like a year and a half ago, I probably would have a similar response. So, I think one of the things that I've noticed is that as the company continues to grow, you can afford the opportunity to sort of like think into the future a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit further, and it's sort of like an inching goal, and it gets all of a sudden exciting that you're suddenly not thinking about like the day-to-day thing anymore. And so, you will get through it, I promise.
Oh, no, I'm
so
good. Rent got paid today.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right, with the fundraising, right? That's great.
It's a good day.
So, for me, I think, just as an example, I took my first sort of like week off like 3 weeks ago since before the MBA program, right? First time. And it took me until Thursday to actually disconnect, right? So that's an interesting phenomenon for me to sort of re-experience and rethink about, right? And I think it affords me the opportunity to think more strategically now. I can think more sort of like patiently about like sort of like where is the company's vision going and the mission is going. And I think that's what investors would expect as the company grows, right? That you have kind of forecastability and stronger forecastability. And so for me personally, it's been, will I use the skills that I've learned here? Oh, totally. I'm a totally different person than I was when I started, right? No questions about it. I probably didn't listen to it. I think I was a good listener for critical thinking skills, but I wasn't a good listener for sort of behavioral psychology and understanding the emotions of like people and how they respond, right? I think to draw back on that rowing mention that I had earlier, like I probably use more of my experience coaching a rowing team than most any other skill sets to get to where I am now. And then for where I'm going, I think that, I would say that those skill sets are going to be invaluable. I'm far more patient, far less emotionally driven about the decisions that I make, far more sort of objective and thoughtful about what it is that I want to achieve, and I'm willing to take the time to ask myself, what do you want to achieve in this journey together, right? So that we can both try to create value mutually together. And so, those are life lessons that I think that there's no question that will be extremely advantageous as I move forward. 10 years from now, will I still be using, going after aquacore, or will there be other ventures? I'm sure there will be. I think it's going to be super hard to, I find it very hard to fathom going to a 40,000 person company. So, I couldn't put a boundary or a definition for you, but I really love the family environment-ish that we're creating. I like to think that there's some weird sort of bridge between sort of how Musk would run a company that's hell-bent on changing the world, combined with Branson that's really interested in just having a lot of fun while he's doing it, and sort of combining that somehow, and just making sure that I stick on that path, and just the other details I'm not too worried about.
Musk and Branson. That's a good combo. I'm interested. So this is great, because I remember when it was just you and an idea, and you were doing everything. And now how many people are on your team?
So I appreciate the comment earlier, but it's actually going to be 32.
32.
So
Okay.
32, and we are projected over the next year to get to 70 or so.
Okay. And you just mentioned your role has changed a lot from being the guy doing everything to now more like a coach, and being able to check out for a while and trust that things are going to go without you.
Yeah, and pontificate. No, I'm not doing that. I'm just kidding.
That's great. Well, so Ali, you joined a company that already existed. And talk about what it's like to kind of come in new and not be the founder, but then take on a pretty big leadership role early on.
Yeah, so when I came into my company, the company was actually about 8 years old, which makes it sound more mature than it was. Because it had been 8 years run by like 2 guys that wrote code, and one of them was a great product guy, and neither of them were business guys, and neither of them were org development guys, right? So they had found some wonderful engineers, and when I came, it was like, you know, hopefully they won't see this, but like 3 adults and 22 kids, and 3 adults all writing code, and 22 kids writing not as good as of code, right? So like, the 3 adults would make the code better. So they had a good business model that had launched. They'd been selling a good product. It was a sort of smallish kind of idea, but a good idea, but was such a good idea that a lot of the other software companies that are heavily installed in institutions were just throwing it in for free. So it was under significant pressure. But in the meantime, what they did, and this may go to what you learn in this situation, is they learned a ton. While they got better and better at business. They got better and better at org. They got good enough that they started to realize, oh, other people know this stuff. And so then the next one, when our CEO decided on his pivot of like, okay, now I have the next idea, up the food chain, much bigger idea, much bigger impact for competency-based learning. He had learned enough, and learned enough in the industry and enough about business that he started to then think about, I need to build my team. I'm missing some key skill sets here. And I happened to meet him at that moment, and so he hired me, and then we hired a learning expert, and then we hired somebody from the publishing business, and then we hired some more product managers, and we were able to build the team. And so I think that learning, not only did he learn a lot about business and about org and all, but he also is more resilient and less phased, potentially because he spent so many years charging everything to his Amex. And so same with me, we still had, we had our rough days. And so now that when my team's all coming to me in panics about various deadlines that we're gonna miss or whatever, I'm remembering, okay, I thought I was gonna miss payroll a lot of times, and so I'm not gonna worry about, oh, really, I'm sorry, I'll call the client and tell them we're gonna be 3 days late. I can take that kind of bullet with much less panic than before. And he had 8 years on me on that, so he's got just a huge reserve of resilience and resourcefulness that he has learned.
Go ahead.
I was going to build on that. I mean, for us, part of what got us past the early ideation stages of the business was focusing on building out a well-rounded team. And I'm confident in my guys seeing this, but I don't think any of my guys are that happy with their specific day-to-day work effort. In terms of I would rather focus 100% of my time designing and writing UX code versus being on customer calls or fielding inbound customer support chats, or my partner in the business is a double UVA, so pardon me, but he's an econ comp sci undergrad and a Darden MBA, and spends 95% of his time writing Angular JavaScript, right? And doing all of the sales meetings and doing all, so for us, it was less about building out 100% product in the beginning and more identifying people that could wear multiple hats, right? We would not have made it through some pretty bad days if the guys that I had on the team didn't wear multiple hats, that were in the meetings with users, talking to customers, helping think about how to position value prop, or why we're doing this. It wasn't, oh, just build this, here's the plan. They were very bought in and very, very much accustomed to what this actually means in terms of building something that people can use. That'll change over time, right? I mean, people become more specialized. Greg, I'm sure, would love to stop writing Angular and focus on running the product team, it's what I recruited him to do. But at any rate, it's an underappreciated aspect, especially early on. Those first 2 or 3 people, gotta be multifaceted people, have to be. They may not write the best code, or they may not be the best business people, or they may not build the best sales docs, or can't close like the guy from that Alec Baldwin video. But they're critical, right? The company doesn't go anywhere without them. So we're at the position now where we can start thinking about more specialized people. But those early days were hypercritical. Yeah.
So these two guys have each raised a round of funding, and that's an important milestone, and able to continue to grow. It just means more work, right?
Just means don't get, now you can get fired.
Actually, when I had the check from the investment in my hands to go deposit it,
Oh, you got a check?
yeah, I actually got a real check.
Uh-huh.
I think it was like symbolic, and
They
so
just give you an envelope full of cash.
no, yeah. Anyway, so I was actually more scared. I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, oh man, this is getting real. Damn.
A lot of somebody else's money. Yeah.
But it, it dedicates you more, right? Because you're like, now I have more writing, and people are trusting me and
Yeah.
putting their faith in me.
Especially if you've lost investors' money before. Earmuffs.
Mm.
Yeah, I burned through probably $500,000 in my first business chasing it, and it motivates me every single day. Like, those investors aren't in this current business, and nor would I ever ask them to invest in this one. But God willing, if anything ever happens successfully with this one, I'll certainly go back and make them whole on that. Like, they gave me my education, but you have to be a good steward. Like, I was an immature, snot-nosed college grad. Like, I didn't know it. Underappreciated.
Well, and Ali, your company hit a milestone recently. You mentioned that it's been acquired now. So tell us about how did that go about, and what has changed now with what you're doing?
Yeah, we meant to raise money, but accidentally in the process we sold the company.
Nice.
We went out to go raise money, and then we ran into some folks we knew in the market that were looking for what we had, and they bought it. So how did it go? It's very time consuming. Spent a lot of time with lawyers, a lot of time with accountants. I kind of hated it the whole time because I hate spending time on reading contracts and staring at, there's a lot of proving. There's a lot of proving that what you say is true, and half the time you're like, I actually don't know if it's true, so I have to talk to a tax accountant for like 3 hours about sales and use tax in 50 states and 40 countries, and I don't know what any of that means, and I don't care. So so we spent like 6 months doing this, and what is it like now? I mean, in terms of how an acquisition can go, I think it's as good as it can possibly be. We sold our company to Cengage Learning, and Cengage has a digital product that serves the cohort model of education really well. They didn't have a bet in personalized adaptive learning, and they didn't believe they could serve both masters from the same group because it's very different style. And the CEO and the CTO were previously the CEO and the CTO of our largest client, and so had believed in us and known us for a decade or more, and the timing just met up. And so they bought we decided to sell to them. They have put a sizable investment into our P&L, so instead of trying not to hit zero, I can dip way into the red now and invest in the platform. They're leaving us alone, leaving our management team intact, except that I get to give them tax accounting to worry about and like legal to worry about, and they're sending us, like new Wi-Fi and good stuff, and kind of just giving us the juice to move forward. And the other fun thing about it is that all of our employees had stock options, so I got to hand out checks for 3 days, which was, I couldn't believe my CEO let me be the one to do that. I was like, this is so funny. Sure you don't want just some of them? He's like, you knock yourself out. So that was fun.
Great. So the industries you guys are working in, sometimes, we've already talked about how they're complex and difficult. Do you think it's easier, now that you're part of a bigger company, is that going to make it easier to make things happen in your industry, or is that going to make it harder because it's harder to innovate and that sort of thing? And then you guys, what do you think, in terms of, do you have bigger competitors you're worried about? Do you think you would be able to make a bigger splash if you were part of a bigger platform, or do you kind of like where you are now?
It's certainly easier from the standpoint of we have more weight behind us, investment, capital, people, knowledge, all that. We also have all of their great content, which we can put in our platform. We have a little bit of a branding challenge to overcome because we don't want our clients, our institutional clients or our publishing clients, to think we're going to try to strong arm out other types of content. We want to create a platform that's open. We'll have all publisher content working nicely in it, as well as open content, user-generated content, whatever content the instructors and the administration and the programs believe will cause learning, and they'll have data to show whether it caused learning, and we'll iterate on it. But that is different. That's a different market than it's been. That's not how publishers have behaved. This is a new thing, and so there's a brand challenge and a trust challenge, and then a delivery challenge to prove that that's actually what we intend to do. And so we'll work through that.
So I think that we're in a really interesting and cool position, if you ask me, because there's a ton of tailwind in our industry where our consumers, I would say maybe 2 or 3 out of 10 actually are aware of our kind of technology and our innovation, right? So that there's a lot of educating the market that has to take place. And so I can tell you very, very distinctly that, like, you know, the conversation that you can have with your clients or your prospects, you know, it really goes up a couple notches when you have a really nice suite of logos that you can turn to. And not only logos that you can turn to, but really succinct case studies. So I mean, like, we have this one slide that it's like, here's all of our customers. We've delivered in 30 days or less for all of them. We've saved annually 12% or more with all of them. You know, that's the equivalent of a 7-month payback. Like, why would you not do this type of thing? And that's like, that's gold right there, right? And that's like, believe it or not, even that won't like make it like a no-brainer. Like, there's still a lot of like, oh, is it in my budget? Oh, you know, am I the right authority? Oh, you know, internal politics. But it definitely gets it a lot easier, number one. And then number two, you notice that you get sort of like tiers up in terms of what senior level executive you're able to reach, right? Like, so in our last fundraising round, I was fortunate enough to have the CEO of Salesforce, Mark Benioff, invest, which, you know, happens to coincide very nicely with us opening a San Francisco office, and also happens to coincide very nicely with us, you know, approaching an awful lot of corporate technology people that we would probably not have access to if we didn't have those, you know, those types of relationships.
Does he have a good Rolodex?
Yes. Imagine ghostwriting an email for him. It's quite interesting. So anyway, so like those types of relationships though came with that leveling up process. So I think we're in an exciting point where, you know, we've transitioned to specialized roles, right? We have people that I'm like, look, your job is to deliver in 30 days or less, right? Your job is to make sure that the customer is happy. Your job is to make sure that we're bringing in our revenue, you know? And so everybody is sort of sold on their mission and how they're going to create value mutually, which creates a lot of velocity and allows a lot of sort of autonomy to sort of agilely move and do your thing that you need to do. And then combine that with sort of like the fact that we're not too big that, you know, innovation is slowing down or something of that nature. So I think we're in kind of a really nice inflection point right now where we have a really good pipeline of really awesome logos that I'm super excited to see transition and roll over. And, you know, we'll just sort of play that field. I think the challenges that we face are still the same. You know, I think the challenges we face are scale and velocity, right? We've made commitments to investors, like that guy over there, that we will meet certain velocity benchmarks and milestones, right? And so that's what keeps me up at night now.
So in the healthcare industry,
The question was,
is it good to be small or big, or, you know?
So healthcare is in an interesting place. Interesting you bring up Salesforce. I liken most of the IT technology infrastructure in healthcare to circa 1996. Siebel was the predominant CRM, probably dating something that you gotta know. But you know, the idea of, you know, legacy on-prem, really expensive on-premises software permeated, you know, the enterprise customer relationship management space, and then came along Salesforce, which was this idea of no software, right? Even though it is software, which is great. You know, but their idea was, we're not going to send you CDs in a box anymore that you have to pay IT people to put in. And I give you this background because everybody in our industry is Siebel right now, right? Mm-hmm. You have the 2 or 3 predominant electronic health record players that were just the benefactors of $35 billion of federal spending for hospitals to buy an electronic health record. We had 10% of doctors on paper or on electronic records 10, 15 years ago. Now we have like 95%. And because the taxpayer paid them to put in these EHRs. And what they bought were these big legacy, on-premises, hard to maintain, really difficult to use pieces of technology. So to me, if your question was, would I be better in one of those houses? The answer is absolutely not. Our culture is completely different. Our priorities are completely different. We're building for a completely different user, even though the clinician is the user of the EHR. The EHR was not built for the clinician, it was built for billing and documentation, which are completely different things. So I think, being a small scrappy startup that focuses on that specific aspect of, what is the clinical user's day-to-day workflow, we're faster, right? Like these companies have literally insourced people that are paid by the hospital that go up to their campus in Madison, Wisconsin to learn, and then they come back and they take 6 months to put in one minor software patch. And so to us, I think that's opportunity to me. We ship code twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, so we're much faster. We deploy to the cloud, so we have no, hardware, infrastructure. I mean, these aren't new things in technology, it's just new to this industry. But I think the contrarian argument to this is, I think a lot of startups fail going after big channels. I think it's a cop-out, frankly. I think if I was to go and close some big deal with advisory board, which is just down the street, like, oh great, they have a sales force, but now I'm completely reliant on them. Are they gonna sell my product versus, can I take a little more time and be disciplined at finding, I hate to use this buzzword, but product market fit, right? Like, can I get something that is just so compelling from a usability standpoint, from an ROI standpoint, that customers literally sell it for you? Like, the Valley throws around this term Net Promoter Score. That thing is real, and you can drive that. Like, customers are your biggest advocate. It's just too many times in this industry, people spend a ton of time and money selling vaporware that they can never deliver with big ticket contracts to providers that they just get lazy. So I think vaporware is a big problem. But I think if you can just stand up your own independent sales force, go out and sell product that people want to buy, like, that's how to build a business. Don't rely on others. I mean, I'm just a cynic, so maybe that's just me. But.
I'll let Logan comment and then prepare you guys to ask some questions here.
I was just going to comment really quickly. An interesting framework that you might want to take to think about this when you're evaluating your own industries is sort of like how along the sort of adopters curve is your industry, right? So like the way that you've described it, it sounds like the adopters industry is like, it's still in the really, really early adopting phase, right? And I think like when I would investigate my own market, like I found the same types of challenges that you did, where it would just like blow my mind away because there were these guys that still had clipboards and 3-ring binders, and they'd walk the building every single day to like read a little LED screen that would tell them how much energy consumption each of their tenants did floor by floor. And you're thinking like, that sounds so ridiculous in today's era, but that's like 80% of the market right now, right? Like, and then like healthcare, it's even slower. And so what you end up finding is that because one of the big challenges is that, so I would consider like my market sort of a little bit further up the adoption curve than yours, in sort of like the 2 or 3 out of 10, as opposed to say like the 1 or half of a 1 out of 10.
Well, it's a generational problem, right? Like I've literally flown out for a day trip to St. Louis to sit down in a room with IT people at a 13 hospital health system that has 3,700 beds and sees millions of patients a year, and explain to them that no, I don't have to deliver upgrades on a CD and put this on your hardware. Like, here's what this actually is. The counter argument to all of this is that I think we've lagged behind for one of the things I said earlier, which was physicians really haven't changed the way they're trained or how they practice medicine since before there was electricity. Like, that is the God's honest truth. And I think what's changing that.
We have a med student here, by the way. He can
we can definitely talk about it. And I think the reality is, and what is so exciting about our industry at this time, in this critical juncture, is that for the first time you have this new crop of physicians coming out of training in school that has grown up accustomed to a certain kind of interface and environment that they just instinctively know to go to, right? And it lives on this device, and their colleagues that are 5, 6, 7 years out of that just haven't. And so I think this is going to drive a lot of that change, because when you get into practice, you'll find it ain't like Facebook, and it's not like Instagram, and the usability challenges are so much greater. So I think that change is going to get driven by this generation that's grown up in the smartphone, cloud-based technology era. I really do. I'm banking my livelihood on it.
Take some questions from the class.